Welcome, everybody. It's 1:30. It's time for the Board of Trustees meeting, October 4th, 2023. I'm Lyle Oxiger, Chair, and I call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the September 13th, 2023 District Board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Public comment. I'm advised by Zach that we have no public comment. Could you confirm that, Zach? Okay, thank you, sir. Next is presentations from guests and representatives to the board. First item is Excellence at Ames, and Chuck Jensen will be presenting today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Bornstein. Kelly Jackson is at a conference, so I'll have the honor of introducing our Excellent at Ames alum. Sometimes we dream about jobs we never think would come true, like being a dolphin trainer, the personal marketing assistant for Taylor Swift, or a private chauffeur for another famous person. No one never knows where their Ames experience will lead them after they graduate. Today, it's my honor to present BJ Love, an Ames alumni from 2003 who graduated from our aviation program, and his story is a dream come true. Please help me welcome BJ Love via Zoom.
Good afternoon. I hope this is coming through okay.
I hear you fine.
Perfect. My name is BJ Love. I went to Ames, like he said, for my flight program back in the Greg Geiser, Marvin Bay, and Pat Sickles days. If any of you guys remember them, we had a great program back then. Of course, over at the Greeley Airport back then. I know a lot has changed since then, and I definitely need to get back and check out the new facilities. But Ms. Kelly asked me to just call in and give a little history on what I did after I left Ames, how Ames impacted my career and life. And so, like you said, I graduated in 2003. I had actually stayed there and at Ames was able to take more classes to transition to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, which was a great thing that Ames offered, the discount classes that I was able to transfer over and get a bachelor degree as well. So I left and went to the airlines. I flew for Masaba Airlines, which no longer exists, but that was a Northwest commuter based out of Memphis, Tennessee. Flew the Saab 340. I did that for about 3 years. And unfortunately, as we know, airlines, through bankruptcies and mergers, that disappeared. And so I switched over to the corporate world. And that took me out to Burbank, California, where I flew a Westwind charter plane, small plane. But I was that small town kid. I grew up down in Pagosa Springs, down by Durango. And I was a small town kid looking back in the back. And I didn't see Taylor Swift, but I did see the likes of Tim Allen and Denzel Washington and George Lucas and just all these celebrities that I was flying around the country. It was pretty amazing and really enjoyed my time there. I moved on to a little bit bigger plane called the Falcon 2000. That moved me down to San Diego, where I flew for a private gentleman that owned a steel company. And that expanded my world. I started traveling all over the world. We'd go to Europe a lot He was big into boats. And so I got to visit the Monaco Yacht Show 4 years in a row. I watched the Monaco Grand Prix from the back of his boat. I was in the islands in St. Martin and, Portugal and just all over the place. It was really amazing. So again, a small town kid, now my eyes are open to the world, and it was really cool. So unfortunately, that job also disappeared, and I was then hired by Caesars Entertainment, which took me to Las Vegas. So I flew for Caesars Palace, and I stayed there for 8 years. Great organization, had a really good time there. Again, got back into flying some of the celebrities around, the entertainers, celebrity chefs. Two of my favorite, Gordon Ramsay and Celine Dion, just fantastic people. You wouldn't think Gordon Ramsay, but he really is a gem in person. Very nice gentleman. So flew at Caesars for 8 years. It was great. Again, had my first around the world trip with Caesars, which was a first for that small town kid. That job, Caesars was merging. There was a lot of changes going on. So I ended up at the job I'm at now, which I live back in Colorado. I'm based up in Eagle, Colorado now. I fly for a private family, and they have homes in Aspen, LA, Hawaii, and London, which I know sounds terrible. I head to Hawaii on Saturday, so don't be jealous. But we do have some mountains on the snow, or the snow on the mountains up here, and soon I'll be sitting on the beach in Hawaii in a couple of days. So it's really been a whirlwind career for me so far. I feel very blessed that I haven't been furloughed. I've always been able to have a job and move to the next job, even when the current one may have ended. And Ames was definitely a big part of that. The education that I got there was, it's not the fastest. There's plenty of schools that will push you through their program as fast as can be. And I was actually just talking to a gentleman this morning who goes to the ATP school. He said, they pushed me through so fast, I didn't have time to breathe. I don't know where I'm at, and I don't know what's going on. I said, well, that's not at Ames. Ames, you're a person, you're not a number. And that was really important. And for them to take the time, like I said, it's not the fastest, but it's the quality of education that you get there. So let's see, I was trying to write down some notes. I think I might have hit everything. I don't know if there was anything specific that the Board of Trustees is looking for, but just kind of a short, general who I am, where I've been, and thank you so much for the continuing of the Ames College and what they do in the aviation program. Every time I hear of a young person looking at schools, of course, I'm always mentioning Ames. So I appreciate it, and hopefully I'll get there to visit some of the facilities now that I'm back in Colorado. And hopefully I can meet some of you guys. So thank you very much.
Well, BJ, thank you. Thank you for joining us here today. As far as what we're looking for, you gave us exactly what we're looking for. We love hearing from students who have gone on from Ames to become successful and come back and share their stories. We appreciate you being an ambassador for Ames. I think that speaks highly of the education you receive here, and you're stating that you're a person, not a number, and that's exactly how we try to treat our students here. We want everybody to be successful. So thank you again for being here, for being an ambassador for Ames. We wish you all continued success, and you really do need to get back and take a look at the Aviation Center. You'll be amazed at where we've gone and where we're going. So thank you again. Best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Okay, great story. I'm jealous. Next, representatives to the board. First off is Student Government Association, Jared Polito.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of the board, cabinet members, Chair Oxicker and Dr. Bornstein. As all of you know from my initial report, I'm a single dad, and I really apologize for not being there in person. I wanted to be, but my son has strep throat, so I had to stay home to take care of him. But so far, it's been a really busy semester, and midterms are next week, which is just crazy. It's flying by. We've had a very eventful month with a lot of activities and accomplishments. CAP had the honor of hosting an event that featured a recovery advocate. His name was JP, and he's of the Minnesota Hope Dealers. This was an extremely impactful event with over 100 attendees, students, staff, faculty. Everybody enjoyed hearing his story of experiencing and overcoming homelessness, prison, and addiction. Additionally, CAP hosted an event called Grocery Bag Bingo, where students had multiple opportunities to win a bag of groceries from the pantry, which is huge for us college students. This event was a lot of fun, and it really showcased that the continued efforts that we do to support the students here at Ames. And our first town hall at the Windsor campus was a huge success. We gained a lot of feedback from the students, and we really look forward to implementing that and trying to do everything we can to address the needs of the students there. We're also proud to announce that the Smart Recovery meetings have officially begun, and our SGA representative who sits on the Recovering Steering Committee, they have the privilege of co-facilitating these meetings. We also are very proud of the SGA and CAP efforts, and they've been showcased in a press release written by Natalie Stevens. Also this morning, published in the Denver Gazette, Ames was featured in a press release by Colorado nonprofit group Blue Rising. And it's about our partnership around addressing the fentanyl crisis. In addition to this recovery article, the recovery efforts will also be discussed in an article written by Dan England from the NoCo Style and the Colorado Sun. On top of all this news and all the accomplishments that we've made so far, CAP will be hosting an array of activities. And one of the upcoming events that we have it's called Music at the Pavilion, where students and families can enjoy live music and dinner, yard games with their family and friends. This event's going to be Friday from 5 to 7 p.m., and it's totally free to enjoy. CAP will also be hosting the annual Spirit Week from October 23rd to October 27th. Each day is going to be full of a different dress-up day, and the toilet paper will show the theme of each day. So it's really encouraged for students and employees to participate. It's just a fun time all around. Also in the board packet, we have the annual trick or treat track. The date does show October 31st, but due to conflicts in schedule, we had to change that to October 30th. And that's going to be at the Perk on October 30th from 4 to 7. Students and employees are both invited to host a table and to distribute candy to everybody at the trick or treat track and to decorate their table. And there's a chance to win a pizza party, so that's always fun. We highly encourage everyone to bring their family and friends. It's always been a hit. Every year I've seen it, it's been pretty big. So it's definitely encouraged to participate. And if anybody would like to volunteer, please just reach out to student.activities@ames.edu. But on that note, that's a lot of the exciting stuff we've done. Thank you for your time. And does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? I don't see any, but thank you very much for the report. Hope your young one gets well soon.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for this opportunity to present. And I really look forward to being there in person next time.
All right. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Next, Ames Faculty Association, Julia Weingart. Julia is with us. Yes, she is. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to be here. I always look forward to being able to report the faculty accomplishments. It's something I really, really enjoy. So Chair Oxdiger, members of the board, Dr. B, colleagues, friends, good afternoon. Our faculty has been quite busy planting seeds of abundance for our students here at Ames and throughout our community. The time now is to share that harvest. So without further ado, let's begin. The Early Childhood Department is preparing students for their future success. The Early Childhood Education Department has received the Milfred Hansen Grant to design a demonstration preschool classroom. Professor of Early Childhood Education, Laura Willen King, led the project along with part-time instructor Marcia Harmon. The grant will be used by students in the program to design learning space environments and activity experiences for their assignments. Now, this unique space provides an immersive experience for students, enabling them to assimilate the atmosphere and gain a genuine understanding of the classroom setting that they will eventually teach in. Through the experience of being here, they will be able to understand what the early childhood classroom environment is supposed to be like. Research does indicate that classroom context does profoundly influence student learning. Thus, laboratory classrooms do have a dual purpose: to provide engaging and instructive learning environment for students, and also to enhance the ability for students to create effective and creative learning spaces. Furthermore, Shell Costello and Stacy Johnson, professors of English, and the writers community coach Karen McCurley Hardesty attended an anti-racist seminar in Chicago this past summer. Now I know what you're thinking. What value does an anti-racist seminar bring to our college and to educators? Well, first of all, anti-racist pedagogy is simply not about incorporating racial content into courses, curriculum, and discipline. It is also about how one teaches, even in courses where race is not the subject matter. It begins with faculty's awareness and self-reflection of their social position, which leads to the application of this analysis, not just in their teaching, but also in their discipline, in their research, departmental, university, or college and community work. Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, made a similar point. If giving students a good education is our goal, then shouldn't we be giving them a true picture of their world and our shared history as Americans? Like the history of enslavement and discrimination towards people of color and people that are perceived different. She adds that creating an anti-racist pedagogy means that you consider the student's experience in every department, taking into account the experiences before they enter in college, as well beyond even into their future careers. Considering the fact that we are a college that prides ourselves on diversity and tolerance, you can clearly see the value of attending such a conference. Now we're going to move on to some cutting EMS technology, everyone, that's happening in our emergency medical services. So we have Beth Menglin, instructor of emergency medical services, and Christine Scala, professor of emergency medical services, attended a National Association for EMS Educators. Now, this conference is already known for its cutting edge technology, so you can imagine that we were able to bring back some of that insight and applications here at Ames. Some of the benefits gained from attending this conference were attending sessions such as the mental health of EMS students, retention of EMS students, and other valuable lectures. Now, we know we have a mental health initiative, and that is very important here on a campus. So I find this very, very important and also very timely. Now, the bottom line is that we are preparing more students entering with trauma and unique needs, and it shows. Ames Community College is far ahead of other EMS training programs in assisting with mental health needs of the students entering this field. All right, everyone, we're almost there. We're going to look at publications next, and we have Jeff Moser, who is a part-time writers community coach, and he had the following review published in the Rocky Mountain Review of Language Literature: Hawking Women, Falconry, Gender and Control in Medieval Literary Culture. I actually looked at that book and looked it up, and it really talks about gender enactment and power and the creative ways that these women back in the medieval days did so. Finally, let's look at our hats off, or our ripple. And today we're going to be highlighting Lori Hatchell, professor of accounting and business. Since 2013, the completion of my bachelor degree at Regis, Lori has been one of my dearest friends, full of encouragement and help navigating this thing called life. August 14th, I finally made that choice to accept a position at Ames, and that was one of the best things I've ever done. Thank you, Lori, for always going over and beyond. Thank you so much. Keep shining your light, Lori. And thus ends the report for October for the AFA. Any questions for today?
Any questions of Julie? None? Great presentation.
Thank you.
Always
so much.
enjoy hearing you.
Thank you. That means the world to me. You have no idea. Thank you so much.
Okay, next, last but not least, Mr. Ross Perkins, Ames Staff Association. Welcome, Ross. It's good to see you.
It's great to see everyone. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day out here at Windsor. I can't believe this October weather. Wow, where do I begin? I guess at the top of the page. So I'm to give a little humor today. So the Ames Staff Association, we have an appreciation day coming up next week. As you know, it is midterm, as Jared just mentioned. So on October 11th, we will be having what we call our annual popcorn appreciation day. So all the staff will be getting some popcorn from Mom's Popcorn. So we got some really unique flavors. So I'm really excited about that. So look, I think the board will be getting yours. I think we're going to be through the president's office. Also on October 19th is the Well County Connect. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for that and you can find this information on the ASA webpage again. So Dee, and she made it a point of making me tell you this statistic. I wasn't going to do it at first, but then, you know, she is head of human resources. This last ASA meeting, we had 53 members join our meeting. And we've seen a steady increase of staff members attending these meetings. And really, my goal is by the end of this year is to hopefully, this fall or this spring, is to have 100 staff members at our meetings. And so we're halfway there. So I'm super excited about that. I always want to point out the ripples. There's some great stuff in the ripples. Two folks I just want to highlight just briefly. That is Erica Jones in the counseling department. She does an amazing job. Please read the ripple that she got from Danielle Irwin. It's amazing. And then Katie Bugan from HR. If you get an opportunity to work with her in any capacity, she's amazing. So I recommend you take a look at those ripples and read that. I believe it was last semester that Dr. B asked a question. I believe it was in maybe the president's meeting or something like that. One of our meetings we had, she asked, so what is ASA doing to support student success? And that has kind of been with me for a while now. And surprisingly, it really has directed the way that we've been running our ASA meetings recently. So one of the things that we're doing this year is really highlighting services that are at the college, bringing folks in to talk to the staff so that staff know if a student comes to them with a problem, they will know where to send them. Our first meeting that we had last month, we invited Patty Schultz to our meeting to talk about the Hunger Free Campus. She's the coordinator for this. I believe Shannon McCaslin did a report on this, so maybe 2 meetings ago or so. And she presented that, but I wanted to kind of give Patty a little bit of just a few moments of your time to talk about her. You may not know, but she's been at Ames for 22 years. She came here, she's from Canada, and as an international student, she came to Ames as an international student and started to go to school here, got a job in the student life office at that time, and has been there ever since. She did mention that she does have her work visa, so I guess that's good. But she has a passion and a love for helping students. And when we were talking about this, you could just hear that in her voice. And it was just so exciting. She was so excited when I called her and asked her if I could just talk about her today and what she does for us. When Abe started the Artie's Pantry and the mission to just spark something in her. And that's where that passion came from. And so she started to, help grow that mission by helping support writing the grants and things like that. And she also mentioned that Dr. B was one of the first to make the first physical donation to the pantry. So I thought that, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Patty currently serves on the CDHE Basic Needs Resource Steering Committee for the state, which I think is incredible. So she can take her experience here, the things we're doing with online ordering and things like that, reaching out to our satellite campuses, making sure that all our students are being served. It's an amazing job that she's doing like that. And she wanted me to give a shout out to the Will County Food Bank. As I just mentioned earlier, we have a volunteer time for Will County Food Bank. So this is an indirect way that you can help back with that. There's also opportunities to donate to the Artist Pantry. So if you ever have anything that you'd like to donate, please do so. They take everything but clothes almost, especially personal hygiene products, things like that. So just keep that in mind when the time comes. Okay. And then finally, she mentioned the idea of reducing the stigma of asking for help as one of her goals. And I think that's one of the things as a community that we should try to do. And it was funny because that aligns with sort of my message that I've had to the students and the faculty and staff here at Windsor campus is to try to normalize help. And I'm going to leave you with that today. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of Ross? Heidi?
I don't have a question, but I just really enjoy reading the ripples. I think it's important to give everyone positive feedback when they need it, and it's nice to have it presented this way. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Ross.
Yep.
Always enjoy hearing from you. Okay, next is action items. And for the second month in a row, you'll be pleased to hear there are no action items. So moving on. Yeah, we are. Yeah, then there will be a drum roll. Okay, next is information items and items A through D. I'm just going to turn over to Jerry and let you handle those.
That sounds good. Thank you, Chair Oxiger. So for the events calendar, we'll start with item A. We'll take a look at that really quickly. I won't go through it in detail, but I'll highlight a couple of those items. The first one is October the 6th. This Friday is the governor's visit, and we do have RSVPs from the four of you here. So we will see you there when you attend. The other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is toward the end of that list, which is the celebration week events. So the honor ceremony, the graduate dinner, and then fall commencement. If you guys could take a look at your calendars for those events, and then let me know as soon as you can whether or not you're able to attend. We'll get you listed on those too. Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you, Trustee Wendell. I'll get that noted. The next piece of this item is the annual agenda items calendar. So I'll cover that briefly as well for our November meeting. The November meeting will have for the work session from Chuck, the budget assumptions item. There will also be an election update from me because the day before our next meeting together is going to be election day. So we'll have some results to talk about. Then the employee services and Cleary reports, the Ames to UNC report, and then action on the board's meeting and retreat dates for next year. And the next item is correspondence. So I'll hand that back over to Chair Oxiger for that.
Thank you, Jerry. And we do have a piece of correspondence I'd be very pleased to read. It's from Tammy Fisher of Lightning Motors. It says, Ames Workforce Team, I wanted to take the time to thank you and your staff for the excellent work on the recent awarded training grant for Lightning E-Motors. You helped get the grant approved and assisted us the entire way. Because of you, the process went smoothly and efficiently. Thanks to your leadership and dedication, combined with your staff's teamwork and energy, we are now ready to begin the training. You and your employees should take great pride in what you do for employers in Northern Colorado. You all make a difference. Please pass along my gratitude to your staff and leadership team. We look forward to working together for years to come. Sincerely yours, Tammy. And then again, that's from Tammy Fisher of Lightning E-Motors. So thank you and congratulations to the Ames workforce team. Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Did you have anything else?
So just the next item I was going to
Okay,
hit.
sure.
So I'll take over from
Continue
there.
on.
Thank you, Chair Oxiger. The next item on your agenda is taking a look at the draft for the 2024 board meeting dates and board retreat dates. So if you'll take a look at that in your packet, as I noted in the last item, action will be coming on this next month. So please refer to your calendars going into next month's meeting and let me know. But before then, if any of these dates will conflict, if so, we can make adjustments to those. You'll note on here all of the meeting dates that are listed here are the second Wednesday of the month, except for those listed with asterisk, which is March and May. And that's due to commencement in May and then spring break in March. So those have been shifted to the first Wednesdays of the month. But if you know of any conflicts now, you can certainly share those. If not, if you'll share them with me before the next meeting, that would be great. And then lastly, to skip ahead, the last item here under information is just an update on a board procedure for shared governance. It's procedure 7401. There was just a slight administrative change made to this, so there's no action required from the board, but we wanted to bring it to the board to let you know what change was made. The only change that was made, you'll see under section 3, was the addition of the Ames administrators group. So the chair or president of that group will now be attending the meeting of the presidents each semester as well, in addition to the groups already listed there. So again, no action needed here. Just wanted to bring that to the board for your information. Thank you, Chair Oxiger.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the president's report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Bornstein.
Thank you. Before we have our academic plan and academic program feasibility and institutional research core measures report, just want to check with all of you. Attached to your board packet are some highlights from each division. And if you had any questions from those highlights, now would be a good time to ask. Not seeing any, then I would welcome Dr. David Ayler, Vice President for Academic Affairs, to the podium to talk about academic plan. You're already there.
Thank you, Dr. Bornstein, Chair Oxinger, board, colleagues. This is the annual academic plan update. This is what we're planning to do for the current year. Let's see if. So the overall focus for the year is building relationships, and we are forming some cross-functional teams, having conversations with the SACE area, with institutional research and assessment, human resources, budget, to do some longer range coordinated planning. I'm continuing to meet with individuals around campus to get to know them and what their likes and concerns are so that we can form productive teams to work together. And we're spending some time focusing various committees on what their swim lanes are. Last year, I found that a lot of committees were engaged in overlapping work, redundant work. Some things weren't getting done. So we're spending some time this year making sure that everybody knows what everybody else is doing. We have liaisons to share information back and forth, and we can leverage the work across multiple groups. This is a slide with the new degrees and certificates from the last year. We have several areas. We have business and technology, public safety, education, and transportation, and even some non-credit new programs. And these, of course, you have seen over the course of the year because you had to approve them all. And then we have one that was discontinued from last year. The components of the annual academic plan, we have two components. Component A is process improvement. And we have two processes that we're looking at. It's the new program feasibility and program review. And the next agenda item is specifically a report on both of those. And Dr. Andrea DeCosmo will be coming up to do that report. The second part of the academic plan is component B, which is current and developing initiatives. And so we're looking at new and proposed programming, and this relates to some of the questions that were asked earlier of what else do we foresee coming through curriculum where we may have needs. Guided pathways. We have defined guided pathways and laid out what the requirements are, the suggestions for those pathways, but there's more work to be done now in figuring out how do we offer and deliver those courses in a timely manner so that students can complete those pathways and that we're meeting the students' needs as they move through those programs. Then the third initiative is workforce development and the Innovation Center. And we had a presentation on that in the work session this morning. So that's an overview of the annual academic plan. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Looks like no.
Thank you.
Would you like to roll right into your next presentation?
Sure.
Academic program feasibility review and viability.
Yes, so the next presentation is the program feasibility review and viability, and Dr. DeCosmo will be giving that presentation.
Good afternoon, Chairman Oxiger, members of the board, Dr. B, and colleagues. I'm happy to be here today to provide you with our semi-annual report on program feasibility, review, and viability. Today's report has two components. The first component is the focusing on new programs that have been considered over the last 6 months. And the second component will be our review of existing programs. So our new programs that have been considered over the last 6 months are all indicated on this chart. These were all considered between March 23 and September 23. When an idea for a new program is brought forward, our CTE program manager prepares a feasibility inquiry. He accesses a database called Lightcast, and that database provides us with a lot of information about the landscape of the career field that the proposed program could lead to. So some things that are included in that report are things like what kinds of jobs would this certificate or degree lead to? How many jobs are available in our geographic area? How many of those jobs are currently open? What is the starting salary? What is the median salary? Could this field lead to jobs in a different field, such as CNA, certified nursing assistant, often leads to positions in the nursing field. And then what type of degree or certificate is needed in order to enter the field? So after all that information is gathered, our CTE program manager loops in the dean and the department chair and the program director of the department where that proposed program would reside. And they all discuss and determine if we will either not pursue the program at this time or if we'll continue pursuing the program. So the chart indicates which of the programs have been decided to not pursue at this time, and then which ones are currently in the research phase. The research phase means just continued research and discussion and proceeding with some initial approvals. So initial approvals from our curriculum committee, and then of course the Board of Trustees. Sometimes on this chart in future updates, you might see a phase called implementing. And that just means that those initial approvals already took place and maybe we're awaiting state approval or HLC approval. We might be starting to design and develop courses. None of the programs are in that implementation phase right now, but that is a phase that you might see in future reports. So our next part is going to be our update on existing program review. Our program review process involves a lot of people and a lot of steps. First, we distribute data, the program review questions and instructions. Then chairs and program directors work with their faculty in their departments to conduct their program review. They submit it to their dean. The academic deans look over the program review, ask any follow-up questions, request additional information if needed, and then they proceed to approve. And then I review along with the vice president, Dr. Ayler. And this year we plan to prepare some reports for academic affairs leadership to review and discuss together. So this process takes several months. It starts in July and it ends in December. And with this being October, that means we are in the midst of program review right now. And we are right there in the process. Right where that red arrow is pointing to. So this month of October is the month that the academic deans are reviewing and approving their program reviews in their divisions. So wanted to highlight some supports that are provided for faculty who are conducting program review because we added a couple of new elements this year. One element we added, Dr. Ayler and I created a video it included instructions, information. We basically did it for folks who would prefer to maybe watch a 10 or 15 minute video instead of reading a really long email with lots of instructions in it. And that was a lot of fun to create. Special shout out to the Ames video production team. And Dr. B, I just have to say, you make Tea with Dr. B look a lot easier than it actually is. Another new element that we included this year is we hosted a program review kickoff. It was an event we had in August, the Friday before classes started. We had 35 chairs, program directors, and deans in attendance. And during that kickoff session, we practiced a program review together. We created a fictitious program that we called the hospitality program. We don't have that program here at Ames, so it was a safe program to make up some data. And we all practiced the program review together and answered questions and supported one another. The questions all centralize around some themes. Some themes are things like identifying successes, opportunities for improvement, needs, goal setting, and then also making sure that we are keeping an eye on supporting student completion. So for example, a new question that was included this year is we asked the departments to take a look at their schedule and make sure that we are scheduling the courses in the program to support student completion. And then in terms of next steps, what's left for this year? Again, the academic deans this month are reviewing and approving their program reviews in their academic divisions. And then those high-level reports will be created and discussed at Academic Affairs Leadership. And then at the end of every process within the Academic Affairs Division, we do a look back and make sure that timing is working well, the instructions were working well. We might ask some questions about that program review kickoff. Was that received well? Was it useful? Was it not useful? So we'll do a look back just to make sure that we're providing the supports that that folks need to make this a really useful process. And before I move to questions, I just really want to take an opportunity to sincerely thank and appreciate everyone who's involved in this process. This is a very, very big lift. But it is also necessary to make sure that we are offering helpful programs and important programs for our students and for our communities. So any questions that you might have?
See, to go back to the slide. It's in regard to the program feasibility when you're initially starting this. How long does it take to initially start it and then research and then have it so it's kind of approved? How long does that take?
So the actual feasibility inquiry where our CTE program manager goes into that database and pulls that information out. That takes only a couple of days. And then he loops in the dean and the department chair and the program director. That conversation, can take maybe a week or so. And then Dr. Ayler's pulled in if the program goes to research phase. And then once it gets to we need curriculum committee approval, we need board of trustee approval. Sometimes that depends on when those meetings are and when the deadlines are for submitting agenda items and things. So that process itself, that slice of the process can take two months. And maybe 3 months, because I know the board sees new programs twice, once during the work session and then the second time for the actual vote. State approval can take, 4 to 6 weeks. HLC approval can take about that long too. So it is a long time, from idea to implementation. It's a several months long process.
Mark, can you use your microphone?
Could you say
please?
that? Yeah, thank you.
Is,
That's okay.
is credentialed learning, the requirements for that the same as degreed learning? When you have to go through the process. So if you're setting up a certificate for something or versus a degree or coursework degree.
So is your question about the difference between a certificate program and a degree program? So there are some slight differences when it gets to the state approval stage. And then sometimes if the certificate program is going to have programmatic accreditation, that accreditor needs to step in as well. And that's another layer of approval that we would need to receive. Yes.
By the same timeline.
Similar, yes, yeah. And again, there's a lot of variables, but I think CTE, so certificates might take a little bit longer because of those potential extra levels of approval from programmatic accreditors.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. So these, just as a reminder, these reports are monitoring reports for the board that we do either annually or biannually. So our next monitoring report is from our institutional research team, and it's our core measures report. And Dr. Rothmer and Jeff Adcock are going to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bornstein, Chair Oxiger, members of the board. It's my pleasure to once again introduce you to Mr. Jeff Adcock, our Executive Director of Institutional Research and Assessment.
Good afternoon, Chair Oxiger, trustees and the members of the board. Sorry, Dr. V. I'm here to present the annual 2022-2023 core measures report. As we do every year. We've been fortunate to be able to do this for about 3 or 4 years now in a row. So for some of you, this may not be, it should be very similar. In terms of, I don't know, next, I guess I got it, don't I? Okay. So as in the past, we've had 5 different sections: access, retention, learning outcomes, completion, and impact. In terms of the access, that is represented by the distinct number of count of both high school and college level students. So for the 22-23 academic year, there was 9,610 students credit seeking. And then we take a look at the 3-year benchmark, and the 3-year benchmark was 8938. So we're about 107.5% above our benchmark over the previous 3 years. Additionally, in the retention category, retention is fall, spring, and summer, year over year retention, whether or not they were here in the following year, sorry. And for that one, it's 48.27% with a 3-year benchmark of 48.54. And that represents almost negligible decline of 99.44%. The learning outcomes was presented last month from the Academic Affairs Department. So it's the same exact information. I'm just going to kind of skip over that unless you have questions. Completion. Completion is the 3-year average, which is 100, what we call the 150% grad rate. And this is for college level only students. The average is 27.34 for the 22-23 academic year, with a 3-year benchmark of 32.26%, which represents an 84.7% to target or to benchmark rate. The final one category is impact. Impact is unchanged this year, mostly because of completely because of the fact that we just did the economic impact study last year, and we do it once every 3 years. So, or as of this point, it is unchanged. So part of what I try to do is try to pick out some key pieces of information and relate them not only to what is going on with strategic planning and strategic enrollment management and these other types of things that are going on in terms of what Dr. B is trying to get done. And I wanted to at least point out a couple of them. This one here is in access, and taking a look at high school level versus college level students and the amount of drop in a percentage wise anyway of college level students versus high school level students. At this point, it is represented as a 12% drop over the last 4 years, whereas it's last year was about overall 40.45% high school students. The next chart is access again, but it's taking a look at it from a slightly different perspective, looking at it from what are the primary degree type, or what's their primary degree for all of the students, both high school and college level. And as you can see, it's in 4 different categories: not declared, bachelor's, associates, and certificate. And for this particular 4-year window, again, we see a slight drop, 12% over the last 4 years, in associates seeking students. We believe this is largely because of the high school student population increase. In the retention category, taking a look at one of the things that was talked about earlier today in terms of non-traditional versus traditional students, you know, COVID certainly was a little bit of a hit. We've kind of bounced back a little bit in terms of traditional, but non-traditional has bounced back a little bit, but not back to where it was in the past. So one of the areas I think, you know, Dr. B had mentioned was we need to start taking a look at least a little bit in terms of non-traditional adult seeking students. And the final one is taking a look at retention based upon certificate versus associate seeking students, and taking a look at, you know, there certainly has been a slight drop, about 17% over the last 4 years since pre-COVID time for certificate seeking students. And right now, what we're thinking of is that it's largely because of the economy hasn't necessarily bounced back yet. And that's all I have. Any questions from the board?
Dean, you have a question?
We obviously have experienced significant growth in our high school participation. Are we anticipating continued growth in that student group? Are we anticipating to be similar to what it has been the last 3-4 years, or what do we anticipate?
Well, certainly this fall, we are now at 45.8% high school students. So I would say the answer to that's probably yes, it's going up. I'd have to defer to Dr. Ayler to find out whether or not we're actually, you know, how much more growth is going to be behind that. But right now we're at 45.8%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, real quick. Does that affect the retention ratios so they get above 50% because they're high school students? So
Yes, the retention ratios are only college level students, not high school level students.
not high school level. They're not, but we're at 50%. Am I correct with some of those? Are we at 50% for some of those? Are we retaining 50% of our students?
No, we're sitting at about. See, well, overall average is about, go on, Jeff. 48.27, so about 50% of our students are retained from year over year.
From year over year. And the graduation rates of those students is the same?
It's about the same, but it has dropped a little bit, just slightly. I think the important thing to think of here in terms of the completion rates is we're just slightly under the national average, so we're not necessarily, everybody else is in the same kind of boat, if you will.
Any other questions? Oh, no.
Dr. Adcock, are these decreases, if you look at historical data, are these decreases, do they occur typically over a long period of time? Is this normal for them to have ups and downs? And if so, are those ups and downs typically of this magnitude?
I think we're largely in uncharted territory in a lot of different ways. The ebbs and flows are usually surrounding bubbles and things like that in the stock market. You start seeing a lot of it in that particular arena, and you see the drops, but they almost immediately come back. I mean, especially in higher ed, we're talking about 18 months or so, you start seeing the stuff coming back, but we're not necessarily seeing that this time around.
Okay.
So I think it's a little bit of an uncharted territory. COVID and the economy haven't necessarily helped us out here a little bit.
Sure. Okay, thank you for that.
Trustee Wendell?
It seems to me that it's uncharted territory, like you're saying. Is this kind of same wavelength as we were talking about on Conversation Day, that things are changing and people are attending schools differently, and this could be our future? So with that said, do we have a plan B?
I don't know if I'm the plan B, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's always a plan B, C, D, E. So what we all do and what Jeff and his team do are constantly monitoring these data. The strategic enrollment management team are putting together a plan with regard to what we heard on Conversation Day, not only about what's happening now and in the future of higher ed, but certainly what we heard from our IRNA team about our environmental scan, what's really going on in this community, in the state, in our region, and nationally, and how do we need to address that? So we're pulling all of that together. What you heard from Dr. Ayler and Dr. DeCosmo about our academic plan takes all of that into consideration. So, what is coming, what do we need to prepare for and present to our community for those? So it all ties together. So I guess plans B is really the conversations we're currently having about our next strategic plan and those initiatives in there that are going to support our learners from all ages, all walks of life, all areas. So, these what we've been talking about this morning in our work session about supporting facilities also absolutely ties to much of what we're doing. There could be, we don't have data yet, but there could be a very huge argument made in a positive way about what a student health center could do for our students, both in recruitment and retention. Again, don't have data about that yet, but that's part of what we're doing. So what's really needed, what's going to carry us through now and into the future, and what is going to bolster up these figures. And I'll just speak from a personal professional perspective. From my whole entire career, I have always preferred a slow and steady enrollment increase to rocket ships. rocket ships to me don't last. They're really hard to support, promote, fund. But when you have that slow and steady increase, you can plan, you can make sure the quality is there. You can make sure you're being efficient and effective, and you can count on and project that kind of information. So that may be more than what you asked for, but that's what we're all trying to do. Trustee Howe.
This, if you can explain to me 1 year retention with graduation data, it sounds like you're combining two numbers.
So the 1 year retention with graduations for a purpose, because we have students that have certificates that are less than a year. And so when once they've graduated, we count them as they continued on, but they really graduated. Some of them continue on, some of them don't.
Any other questions for Jeff? Great. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Do you
One
do
more.
degree ratios like that? When there's an associate's degree, do you track that retention on like a 2-year program? Or is that combined in the 1 year? So this is a 1 year with certificate, possibly graduating to move on. But of the associate programs we undertake, how many of those complete?
Should be,
Is that? That'd be the 3 year?
well, it's not necessarily on here, but the associates actually complete a lower rate than certs do. I can't remember the exact
So
number,
that-
but the average is at about 50.
What's this annual graduation rate within 3 years at 27.34%?
Yeah, so when you're looking at the graduation rate, the traditional one that all schools use is the 150% grad rate, which is a 3-year outcome.
Okay.
And so, really what it's measuring is also the associate's degrees, which is 2 years,
Takes 3.
takes 3. And it's not taking necessarily in consideration those students that are taking a less than 1 year certificate and then stopping out or something like that.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, one last time. Any other questions? Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. All right. Any questions about the president's meetings of note from September before we go into introducing new employees? No. Okay. So, are there supervisors here that would like to introduce new employees? Please make your way up to the podium this way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, trustees, Chair Oxiger, Dr. Bornstein, and colleagues. I hope you all are enjoying your time on the Windsor campus today. Yay, it's so wonderful to have you all out here. I would like to introduce the new staff executive of the Windsor campus, Michelle Bird. Michelle worked at Ames 10 years ago as a part-time employee, and she then worked over at University Schools, finishing up as their registrar, and now she's back here with us, and we're super happy about that. Another new member of our team is Anika Graff. Anika is not here today, but she is the new program coordinator for the Ames American Heart Association Training Center, CPR. And she also worked at Ames prior to in our PERC area, and she has extensive experience in cardiovascular health, and she's now returned to us as well. So thank you.
Come on up, friends. Hello, Shannon. You know my name. What am I doing? Hello, Shannon. I am here to introduce a couple new members from our care and counseling team first, right next to me is Bree Young, who used to work right here on this campus, didn't you, as a student employee? This is like this is the fun stories where we hire full-time from our student alumni cohort. Isn't that exciting? Bree is working as a case manager. She's been very busy all day long already today, taking in care reports about students who are in distress and things. So we're excited. Bree's here, graduated from UNC and working on a master's from UNC in counseling. Next to her is a licensed mental health professional who we stole, Erica. We stole Erica from UNC. Woohoo! Give it up. She was at UNC doing student mental health work for a few years and just started with us. What day are you on? Day like, I don't know, 3 weeks. Oh, a month. Okay. So we're excited. Erica's here working in the trenches in student mental health. So thanks for giving them a nice warm welcome.
Any other supervisors, new employees? All right, Chair Oxiger, that concludes the president's report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. B. And thank you all for the incredible amount of information that you bring to us at these meetings. It's very meaningful and very informative. Next is reflection and comments from board members about AIMS, not to be confused with the assessment of the board meeting. Anybody got anything good to say about AIMS? Please go ahead, Marilyn.
Of course. I think another great meeting, and thank you for all the preparation and the work that was put forth from the last meeting. I think answering many of our questions, and I keep going back to Dr. Levine and his comments and how we have to continue to evolve to exist. And I think all of the work that continues on of looking ahead of what's needed and, as I said before, skating to where the puck is going. I think you guys are doing a great job, so thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Anyone else? Gene?
I would just like to add my comments on, I know we have little understanding of all the work that is put into preparing for these board meetings. And a lot of work may not result in a big, long presentation, but I sure appreciate also how well you prepare for these meetings to make them worthwhile and productive. Great job.
Along with what Jean says, the information that we ask of you, and then it's like magic. It is prepared and presented very well. So I appreciate that. And I like the fact that we are talking about big stuff, but if we take the time to talk about the smaller things, but they're just as important. And so I really appreciate that you never overlook the small things as well. So.
Anyone else?
It was very, very good information today. I learned a lot about the A&P program that's evolving. It's pricey, but it does fit a need, and that's being recognized nationally. That'll give us some attention across this side of the planet. The other programs, a health clinic, is that going to happen? We would have a health clinic on campus.
Well, it was part of your documentation.
Right, that's what I thought.
Right, but right now, because we have some timely
information
dates that we need to focus on, we're focused on the A&P program and the WIC.
But
yeah. That's why we presented to you earlier today the four programs that we're
out there in the future. No, thank you. They're all exciting. I think we're so fortunate. I was talking to Chuck today. I mean, what community college has between $50 and $75 million to spend? Not many. We are very fortunate. And as long as we use these funds well, where they can be sustainable programs, I think that's most important. And that's off to the team back there putting it all together.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I would certainly echo everything that's been said here. I guess one of the things that I'm most impressed with is that we're having these discussions. It speaks to the fact that Ames is continually looking forward, continuing planning ahead. And I guess that's exemplified by the fact that we have something like this A&P program just kind of all of a sudden is here and presented to us. The Almquist comes along. We weren't expecting that. But when we're asked to step up and take advantage of these opportunities, we're able to. The groundwork has already been laid. We didn't know it was coming, but we were ready for it. And we were able to adjust. We're able to adjust to the other things that are constantly going on. We're able to absorb them along with the maintenance and everything else that still has to continue on a daily basis. That's not going to go away. So I'm amazed at how well prepared we are. Obviously having the resources, Mark says, helps tremendously, but that didn't happen by accident either. So kudos to everybody. Thank you for making this board's job pretty easy, and helps us help you take advantage of these opportunities. So I'm, again, as I always say, very, very fortunate to be associated with each and every one of you and with Ames in general. So thank you. Next is assessment of the board meeting. We do this at the end of each meeting. What did we learn? What worked? What didn't work? It's all printed out in your packet for us to review at each meeting. And then I would just ask, do any of the board members have any comments on any of these items relative to assessment of our meeting item?
This is just an observance. I think when we meet here, somehow we need to set up the tables so we don't have to look around the pole. I just feel, I'm like, well, wait, I can't see her. Just to,
Well, then the next meeting, this may be the last meeting actually here in this space, since we're building a brand new building across the way. So, so it's a positive thing. We won't have to worry about the poll.
But good observation. Anyone else?
This is not a comment on what or how the meeting went. I just wanted to mention, I saw an advertisement last night on TV that next Sunday on 60 Minutes, CBS 60 Minutes, they're going to talk about an exciting new industry, and that's construction, building construction with a new technology called 3D printing. You may want to tune in. It seems very relevant to what we're discussing.
It very well may be. Anybody else? Mark?
This meeting was special because it had a lot to do with workforce development and just the AP program, meeting the needs of the industries that are around us. And I've been searching for a Waldo of information, and I finally was able to reach out to Liz Gardner's office. And I asked about demographic needs of different talents, skills, doctors, lawyers, physicians, what have you, across the board. And she turned me on to a Colorado Talent Pipeline report. It's as of 22. It's really filled, there's 98 pages. And it's filled with just a lot of information about nursing, about med tech careers, all the above. And it just gives you a breakdown how many times a job's requested and then how long it takes to fill that job. Okay, that posting, which is kind of interesting because it's in 22 has got to be weird because it's beginning of post-COVID. So it's the numbers are going to change, I'm sure, dramatically in 23, 24 on up. I made just 5 brief, not copies, but just synopses. I'll pass them down just to share. And you can go online, just go 2022 Colorado Talent Pipeline Report. It has everything at its fingertips of everything that I kind of wanted to know about industries in general. And it, you know, it's just a mouse click away from your hands. But and this was done by the governor. I think higher ed's in there, Department of Ed. There's a lot of people in play here. The demographics people. It was everybody pooling their resources and saying, "Boo, here we go." And that was what this meeting made me learn a lot. And I haven't read the 98 pages.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us, Mark. Anything else? Anybody want to volunteer to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Please have a great rest of your week.